which is like a configuration part, and then we have an integration part. Okay, so configuration will basically deal with the basics of like how to configure the base application. Okay, so when we say Guidewire project, we'll be having a base application called out of the box. Okay, so it's here we'll be looking on how to configure rather than creating. We'll be telling configuring. Why? Because we are configuring the base application. So we'll be talking those things in detail, and then we'll talk on how to integrate. Once we created all these things, how to integrate this to the external system. Okay, so under configuration, it's a three-tier architecture, MVC architecture, where model would be the DB side, view would be the presentation, and the controller or the logical side would be written in Gosu. Okay, so coming to in detail on what are each things would be covered under the first thing, which is like a data tier. Okay, so under configuration, we have three topics. Within that, under data tier, first we'll be talking on the entities. Okay, so what are the entities? Okay, entities is basically tables. In Guidewire language, all the entities are called the tables. So here we'll be talking in details like how to create an entities, how to modify existing entities, like extending an entity, how to create a new entity. Okay, how to add a type list. Okay, a type list in the sense the predefined drop downs that we have up, right? How to create a type list, how to create a dependent drop downs, all those DB stuff. Okay, how to, once we made all the table changes, okay, how to add these things, or how to view the tables that we have created in the database from H2. So by default, we'll be using H2 database. So those kind of things in detail. So we'll be opening all those things would be covered in the studio. We'll be looking on how to create a new entities, what are each every folder's been doing. Okay, what is this metadata doing? What are the extensions doing? So all those kind of things. So we'll be mainly working on the studio point of view. So I'll be showing you all those DB stuff first, all the DB architecture. Okay. Now, once we have covered all the DB architecture, like all the entity creation, all the foreign key, array key, type keys, all those things, then we'll be moving on to the coding stuff, right? Coding in the sense the Gosu element. Okay, so it is here where we'll be talking on what is this Gosu. So Gosu is actually a Guidewire language. So here we'll be talking in detail like how to declare a variable, okay, how to create a Gosu class, okay, what are the enhancements, concepts, all those Gosu things, right? How to add a Gosu queries, how to add Gosu arrays, bundles, okay, all those things here is what we'll be talking. Okay, let's say based on some scenarios, I need to add a validation. Okay, we even have different types of validation like field validation, UI validation, all those things. So those Gosu things is what we'll be talking here in detail on the application tier and how it is different from other programming languages. Okay, so that would be explained here in detail. Okay, and once we cover that part, then we'll be looking on the UI element. UI element in the sense the presentation tier. Okay, so Guidewire has its own UI framework, something called PCF. It stands for page configuration file. So all the UI elements that we see right now, right, everything is actually coming from the PCF components. Okay, so PCF is again divided into two parts, widgets and locations. So here we'll be talking in detail like what are widgets, how to create different types of widgets. It's basically using this tool, we can easily drag and drop things and we can create up. Okay, so what is a widget concept? What is an input side, detail view, card view, list detail view, again pop-up, accept on all those UI stuff. We'll be talking here in detail on the PCF side. Okay, also what all things that we have written, like all the database components that we have created, right? Those things has to be populated from the UI. So those things and all we'll be covering in detail on the UI element. Okay, along with that, we'll be again covering all the advanced concepts as well in the PCF, like what is the script parameter, what are the entity names, or how to invoke a data change API. All those things will be covering here, the UI element. Okay, so these are three things that would be covered under the configuration. Okay, data tier, application tier, and the UI tier. Okay, so once we covered all this, then our next motive would be to send the data to the external system through integrations. Yeah, so let me give you with an example. Let's say a simple way would be, I need to add a new field here. Let's say below account number, I need to add something like phone number. Okay, a simple field, right? So what I'll do is, so here using this application, we can even open up this particular thing in the studio like this. So it's using the tool, we can easily create things up. Okay, we'll simply double click on this. We'll open up this PCF file. These are various tools. So I'll be explaining what is this PCF canvas, what are the components that we have to use up. This is basically a folder in page configuration. Then I'll look out for like, let's say text input. So we'll be looking in detail like what are each properties been doing up. And then I'll just click on this and I'll show how to drag it. So what are these green lines? What are these blue line that's showing up. Okay, and then once we select this, how to add up the properties. So this is the place where we'll be adding up the properties, right? So right now what we are doing, we are adding a phone number. Okay, so I'll just go here. We'll just fill up the properties. Okay, so like that, we'll be talking in detail. So right now I'll just hard code it, phone number. Okay, and maybe I'll add some value. So in real time, what we'll be doing as part of the training, I'll be covering first the DB part, and that DB is what will be referring the UI. Okay, so that's how we'll be adding up a new component to the existing file. And then if I simply come up to the UI and I'll just show, so this is where we'll be reloading the PCF. Okay, so I'll just reload the PCF and you'll be able to see the new element that's been done here. Okay, so using the tool, it's quite simplified form. So even freshers or people from a non-IT background, even they are moving to Guidewire, like from the civil background or a mechanical background. So it would be more easier to understand because it's a tool-based thing. It would be more of a drag and drop kind of thing. So as you can see here, the phone number and all, we just added this element, right? So that's the idea. So in configuration, it would be the one. When we cover the integration side is where it would be recommended to have some Java background, or maybe the basics of OOPS concepts, because it's in the integration is where we'll be covering like how to write a class file, how to write a mapping class. Let's say once I get a response from the external system, how to map it to the Guidewire entities that we created. So those things and all would be better to, but again, here we'll be touching all the areas within Guidewire, so it would be easy to understand. So that would be the idea. Okay. It's like, did I answer your question? Or?